Hey y'all, welcome to the channel, and today we'll be talking about the Nude Party's new-ish album. Came out in beginning of February, I think, called Look Who's Back. The Nude Party is a 7-piece band that formed in my home state of North Carolina, and they released their first project about a decade ago called the Hot Tub EP back in 2016. They're a garage rock, psychedelic rock band that incorporates a lot of country, a lot of blues into their music. Although this album is primarily more on the country and Americana side. They originally got their start by playing in basements at house parties where they went to college at Appalachian State. Supposedly they would perform at these parties naked, and that's where their name, the Nude Party, comes from. This album, Look Who's Back, is their first self-released album as an independent group since their first project, the Hot Tub EP. This album cover shows the 7 members of the band sitting in lawn chairs, sort of spread out across a desert. Fairly simple cover, but I think it really perfectly captures what this record sounds like because it was recorded out in Joshua Tree, California, and it's got a lot of country and Americana inspired sounds on it. It is on the shorter side at only about 34 minutes and 9 tracks. And they did something a little weird, which was leading up to the album, they released 6 of the 9 tracks as singles, which feels like a little too much if you ask me. Getting into the actual album, we have the first track, Look Who's Back, which is mellow and serene and has a noticeable country twang to it. It creates a sense of nostalgia and has this feeling of you're seeing a friend that you haven't seen in a long time. And this track reminds me a little bit of the Velvet Underground in certain moments, which I know is one of their main inspirations. Next, we move on to probably my favorite track on the album, Not That Bad. It's a melancholic and poignant track, but ultimately it's reassuring and hopeful, as the lyrics themselves go, "It's not that bad, I know it's only in my mind, these things always take time." And it also features this hypnotic pedal steel guitar that I just can't get enough of. And it has a pretty nice guitar solo near the end of the track as well. Moving on, we have the track Sweetheart of the Radio. This track sees their lead vocalist, Patton McGee, take a back seat, and their guitarist, Sean Couture, I hope I didn't butcher that, performs the vocals on this track. This is the only track on the album that has any features as well. It features 2 artists from California known as Pearl Charles and Lady Appletree, and they both give a great performance that perfectly captures the feel of this song. This is definitely the most country song on the entire album, and it creates this longing feeling as the song's about going from show to show, searching from radio station to radio station, hoping to hear a particular voice. In other words, the sweetheart of the radio. The next track, titled Carolyn, is very upbeat and energetic with driving instrumentals. It has a sound that's very reminiscent of the mid to late 60s Rolling Stones, mainly with what you hear in the guitar riffs. And the final 2 minutes of the track is this awesome psychedelic jam sesh that my only complaint is that it doesn't go on for longer. Next up, we have the track Walk That Walk, which is very laid back and carefree. It creates this sort of small house party-like atmosphere, which is really enhanced by the fact that this entire album was recorded in a makeshift studio in a friend's living room. And if you're familiar with the Eagles at all, you might notice that the opening drum segment on this track sounds pretty familiar to the drums you hear throughout the song Heartache Tonight. After that, we have the track Honey for the Barflies. This track makes you feel like you're in an old country dive bar, and there's even a quick soundbite in the beginning of bar noise, which is mainly just people chattering and glasses clanking, things like that. I love the vocals on this track because he makes this wailing noise with his voice that I think perfectly captures the style that they were going for. Next up is the track Love is Electric, which is very uplifting and serene. This track has an out west California country sound where it sort of blends country and surf rock together just a little bit. The kind where the guitar can just as easily fit on a surf rock track as it can on a country track. A good example of this is the guitar on the song Ghost Riders in the Sky by Johnny Cash. Personally, I don't like the lyrics very much. They're very cliche and generic. Honestly, I think the track would work better as an instrumental. It already has that romantic sound that they're going for, and I think it would just be elevated without the uninspired lyrics that were thrown onto it. Next up, we have the track Taking Hangers Off the Line. This track has a honky-tonk sound with some nice blues licks added in. They definitely took heavy inspiration from the Rolling Stones on this track, and probably to their detriment. It sounds way too similar to a Rolling Stones song without adding anything new to it, or really doing anything interesting with it, and you're probably just better off listening to a Rolling Stones song. Moving on to the final track, it's called Juarez. It's soothing, mellow, and almost tropical sounding, but with a country twang to it. The lyrics describe being loyal to a friend, even during tough times, no matter where they go. It details events such as taking a stolen car down to Mexico and wandering around down there until ultimately getting arrested and spending 2 years in prison. I think this album does a great job at capturing the sound of Western California with its particular brand of country and Americana, and it also has some nice bits of psychedelic rock sprinkled here and there as well. The record starts off strong, but ultimately at the end dips not really in quality, but more so in creativity, but it does at least pick up a little bit with the last track being a good closer. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good album. Definitely not my favorite from them, but I did like it. And continuing what I started in the last video, I briefly want to mention some other albums that came out around this time, mainly because I took a couple long breaks from posting videos earlier this year, and I'm just trying to play catch up and cover all the music that's been released since then. Now, the first album I want to briefly mention that came out in February of this year is To Whom This May Concern by Jill Scott. This is an incredibly diverse album. It has a ton of variety. It's very dense, but it's not bloated. It doesn't feel like you're slugging through it, and it's got very poetic lyrics. Next is The Fall Off by J. Cole, what is supposedly his last album. This is a huge album. It's a double disc, 24-track album that runs at about an hour and 40 minutes long. It features some of his tightest rapping to date with incredible wordplay. Next is The Apple Tree Under the Sea by Hemlock Springs. It's fantastical, whimsical, 80s styled synth pop. It's got incredible vocal performances on it, and it feels very cinematic. Next is My Days of 58 by Bill Callahan. This is a very personal record that feels as if we get to peer into Bill Callahan's life and view it with our own eyes. It has amazing songwriting with incredibly wise lyrics, and every song is just so well performed. And the final album I want to mention that came out in February is The Mountain by Gorillaz. This is another incredibly versatile album, blending multiple genres together with a clear overall influence on Hindustani music. And this album has a ton of features on every track from artists both old and new, and many posthumous features, which I've mentioned before. I'm not a big fan of posthumous features or posthumous releases from artists, but when done right, when done tastefully, I can really appreciate it, and I do think that it ties well into the themes of this album as well. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Thanks for sticking around. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.